Hello.
Hello.
Is the audio and video feed correct? Is it?
Yes. How about
Okay.
mine?
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect. So I guess we're just gonna wait a couple more minutes or so. Same here, Blair.
I hope everyone had a really good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, good afternoon. It's great to see you're excited. We're excited too.
I know.
We'll be starting in just a while.
We'll give it 1, 2 more minutes to let everyone in. Hello. Hello. Hi, Dania.
Hello.
Okay. Should we get started?
Yeah, sure. Let's get started.
So, hello, everyone, and welcome to our Men's Health Instagram Live. And Today, we're going to be continuing the mini series in our Instagram Lives. We'll be talking about men's mental health today, but later this month, we'll be covering mental health in the non binary slash gender slash non conforming community. At the end of May, we explored women's mental health, and you can find that live in our Instagram feed in the grid. The topics we'll be covering in these lives are complex, and we recognize that we only have around 30 minutes or so to cover them. We hope that these conversations provide a good introduction to exploring mental health from various gendered perspectives, and that they leave you with some resources to support your mental health, however you identify. I'm joined today by my fellow intern, Ahredan, and I'll be asking him some questions in regards to mental health. But first, I need to present the funding statement. So Connect OC is a coalition dedicated to increasing accessibility to mental health services for Orange County transitional age youth and young adults. We tend to put T or YA, yeah, for transitional young youth and young adults. And their families by networking them to local community mental health resources. And to find out more, that will be on the website connect-oc.org. Um, the Connect OC Coalition is funded by the Orange County Health Care Agency, Behavioral Health Services Prevention and Intervention through the Mental Health Services Act / Prop 63. And just a quick note, we are not mental health professionals, and our focus today is going to be on men's mental health. But if anyone has any questions that perhaps are more clinical or would benefit from a more benefit from the advice of a mental health professional, we encourage you to take a look at our saved stories for resources that provide some that do provide those resources. Okay, and then we're gonna get started. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing really good. It's sunny outside. It's nice weather.
Hmm.
Probably get outside possibly after this and do something that's active, especially as
Yeah.
summer is starting. I know, and things
Yeah.
finally. Um, it's good to get out there and do something.
Hmm.
So we're gonna get started with my first question to you, and that is, what types of stigma, including self-stigma, do men face as it relates to their mental health?
Well, personally, I think that there are several. Um, men, the first that I would like to highlight is the fact that men are expected to be stoic more so than women do. And this has sort of an adverse effect on how men sort of view themselves in society. And this can lead to several problems. Men have a tendency to downplay the sort of mental health illnesses that they may suffer from, and this can also lead to them not seeking out the appropriate resources or the help that they need in order to counteract their illnesses. And as a result of that, you can see a sort of disproportionate difference between the men who are actually suffering from mental health illnesses but are not seeking out the help for it. And this can lead to men taking up substance abuse, drugs, alcohol, or even may lead to suicide in some cases. And that's incredibly unfortunate. And on a separate note, I would just like to say that this display of stoicism can also translate into men uh, displaying a sort of confidence, constant confidence, and hiding their insecurities, which is also sort of detrimental to your mental health because society or culture does not really award men who are displaying these attributes openly because you're always supposed to be an ideal caricature or archetype of what an ideal man should be. And I think this is exacerbated by media portrayal of uh, male characters or male heroes. I think this archetype can be popularly seen in the John Wayne era of frontier justice, in The Searchers, and then to Clint Eastwood in his Western films, and then to Matthew McConaughey's portrayal in True Detective, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. But all of these characters have a sort of lone wolf mentality of absolute confidence and incredible um, assertiveness. But the case is, it's not really that simple to live on that ideal all the time because if you're not going to be open, it just sort of creates a pressure cooker of different problems that builds it within you over the months with you not being able to express them openly. And the points that I brought up, like just before, substance abuse, they take root in those people that are trying to emulate these sort of personalities.
Yeah, those were all such really good points, and um, to make note of like what you're saying, like men somehow always have to feel like they have to put this like masculine front in front of others constantly, and I feel like that also in a way means that like they can't um like feel in a way or like show kind of like those emotions. And I actually wanted to ask, like, have you ever felt like you needed to put that front in front of others, or did you ever feel like, and like when did you notice like this isn't okay in a way?
I mean, absolutely, I have. I can admit that with complete clarity, uh, because I honestly have adopted that front a lot of times in different cases where I had to. be emotionally cold sometimes, because I felt that that was the appropriate response to a certain scenario. But I can personally attest to the fact that I have, acted that way. I, and right now I can honestly say that I have sort of moved away from that, because I realized that putting up that front continuously is not going to be helping me cope with my mental health in any way whatsoever. It's just that society or culture has imprinted that value system on me to put up that front, which is so unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to agree. Culture does play a lot into how people view themselves and the stigma that plays into that as well, and that plays into the self stigma as well. And speaking of culture, I wanted to ask, what are some social, cultural, and personal patterns that tend to influence the way men relate to their mental health?
Um, I think this varies from culture to culture, but the Western ideal is sort of held up to be this rugged individualism, incredible self-sufficiency. Work ethic is the American work ethic is particularly held to be the highest ideal, and I think this does have a sort of negative connotation on how it affects mental health of men, because you cannot be expected to continuously be on your best performance all the time. So I think that's an example of the Western ideal that's expected. I'm sure that other cultures have varying ideals for how the men of their country should act, or how they should carry out their duties in society.
Yeah, and I know that me and you, we both share like similar cultural like things that affect patterns within our communities and with mental health, especially for men. Um, can you share like some things that you've viewed personally and in your culture that uh, kind of plays into that?
Mhm. Um, Personally, I would say that my culture values a lot of men playing sports, particularly cricket. Like, it's cricket season right now, so you can expect the streets to be really, you know, filled with children and people just going at it, playing cricket all the time. Um, there's a sort of sports-like mentality that every boy is supposed to take up, and there's also alongside that, there's also the mentality that every boy is expected to be the top of his class. I'm sure that, everyone shares this sentiment of trying to be better than the other, or being the top. So I think that's an incredible ideal to aspire to, but you should recognize your own limits and try to act accordingly to those limits, in order to make sure that your mental health is not negatively affected.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because I've noticed that as well. Like the whole um, being in sports, like that's such a big deal, and being into them. And when I see like men that are not so into it, and it doesn't really mean anything, it doesn't really interest them, they get judged automatically. Like for not watching basketball, not liking to watch soccer, not wanting to like play with other boys or like anything like that. It's like frowned upon, and
Yeah.
I don't really understand why, because not that's not in everyone's interest, and nobody should feel pressured into having to feel that way, um, or feel pressured to like something just because it's a part of their society and their community. And um, and when you going back when you mentioned about like how westernized station kind of plays into it, how do you feel about like how body image is learned from men and from women in our lives in media? Like, how do you think that plays out for men in our media?
I personally feel that the ideal body image of men has warped throughout the years from like the 80s till now. The body that men were expected to have at 80s is drastically different from how men are supposed to have, I mean, the body that men are supposed to have right now. And this has been exacerbated by popular media and the celebrities which act within those mediums. You've got people, top class actors and professionals like The Rock, Mark Wahlberg, Hugh Jackman, portraying these absolute, monsters, so to speak, in different comic book movies and so on. And, you just can't help but notice that they're actually not that young. They're pushing ages of 50 or even above, and yet they're able to maintain and grow these bodies without seemingly any difficulty whatsoever. And news articles and videos come out of them just constantly being able to put on pounds of muscle within weeks. And me being, personally, I go to the gym, and I can attest to the fact that it's really not that easy. But the problem within that statement is, how can I prove that they are not actually taking any performance enhancing drugs? What if they are actually natural? But the fact is that these people work in a medium or an industry that is famous for substance abuse. So, and the fact that they're actually taking these drugs and working is attributed to a multiple of factors, such as the work that they're doing. Their movies pull in billions of dollars every year, and they're employing hundreds and thousands of people. So you can argue that the ethical standards of them taking the PEDs is justified because of the fact that they have a negative, a net positive effect on the world around them. But there's also consequences to that. How do you justify people who look up to these stars and think to themselves that, yes, I might not be a celebrity, but I can at least look like one. But the fact is that when they try to emulate these personalities and their lifestyles, they come to understand that it's really not that simple. They have billions of dollars, millions of dollars behind each of these projects that they're doing. They have professional chefs, personal trainers, around the clock. They're just being helped along by these different people along their lifestyles. And this sort of sets up an expectation within people that sort of, leads to further disappointment, because they are not getting nearly the amount of muscle as these celebrities. And this sort of triggers in their mind, like, what am I doing wrong? Am I just not cut out for it? Until they understand that, no, I can achieve these bodies. I just have to shell out a little extra money in order to get those access to those drugs. But that also further exacerbates the problem, because these drugs are not healthy. No matter how you try to spin it, these drugs are incredibly dangerous for both your physical and your mental facilities. Roid rage, that's what they call it, because these are testosterone boosting drugs, as well as human growth hormones that affect your bones, your muscles, as well as your brain. So I think social media has in some way negatively affected the minds of people that actually subscribe to those ideals. But it's also necessary for people to understand that these ideals are not necessarily the ideal that you should be looking out for, because you're not an actor. These people act and they work in those movies for a living. But if your workspace is different, you should not have to change your body just to emulate these ideals, so to speak.
those are obviously such great points because we often always look up to these actors, celebrities, and everything, and you see them in the gym, but you don't know for sure like what they're doing initially to their bodies to modify them or to make themselves look so much better than what they are, and um, and that puts so much pressures onto uh, men and women who both look up to these people, and men in these regards, like when you talked about the gym, um, I know some of them they will sometimes look at others and like how they look, and it's all like the whole image plays into it. Where how come I'm not looking like that? Why can't I get to that level? Why can't I lift that much? And I feel like something that can help those thoughts is like, I mean, if you want to get there, you can possibly get there. But what are ways and um, I want to ask you, like, what are like healthy ways to process those thoughts, especially when you're in a gym and there's people all around you.
I For a beginner, the mindset is completely different. I mean, you walk into the gym, you're not nearly as buff or fit as the people around you, so that can definitely lead to some self-image problems. But you have to understand the fact that everybody started from square one, and you have to build on that ideal that I may be starting from square one now, but if I keep up the hard work and the training and the eating, I am eventually going to lead somewhere. And it's important to understand that in the process that you eventually do go somewhere, you take the route that is healthy for you instead of relying on uh, black market or possibly dangerous substances that can allow you to achieve those goals. So it's a bit of a personal mindset that you need to cultivate for yourself. And I think social media has sort of also helped in that regard because there are many influencers right now who can point out that certain celebrities are not actually as natural as they speak, or this lifestyle is not nearly as ideal as it would seem on their photos or in their videos or in the promotions that they do. So I think you can get some help along that route.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think trying to find that mindset it is personal and it is something that you need to go that you need to do personally, um and I think finding that out is like your own kind of journey in a way. So I want to talk about next. So like how do you change some of these unhelpful ways we think about like men's mental health? And like what are some ways that we can do that?
Um, I think the first step would be actually talking about it, advocating for it. I think one of the more recent trends in addressing men's mental health has been the increase in therapy. I genuinely think that therapy actually works because it allows men to seek out an outlet where they can list the excuses and the rationalizations that they have behind them actually adopting different mindsets. And you can do that in front of a person who is specifically trained to see the underlying themes and the meanings behind you adopting those mindsets so that you can break out of them. So I would say that therapy is one of the most important tools that you can adopt and use. And there are definitely many more outlets for men to seek out therapy than before. So I would say that's very that's a genuine step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think therapy all around should be normalized, especially for men. Like they shouldn't feel like they are any less of anything by getting the help that they need. And I feel like in doing so and possibly um, possibly showcasing that, yeah, like you're okay getting help, like it's an okay thing, it should be normalized, then I think that will increase the chance of like more of them going in to get help. And it's kind of like I've noticed with these patterns, like with men especially, like when they see someone doing something and or that's bettering themselves, then more will join. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've noticed that pattern.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that statement. Absolutely. You know, it's a sort of a chain reaction that starts off when you see enough of your peers or your friends getting into the same um, work ethic or treatment that they're undergoing, and you feel, sort of safe or justified in following that as well.
Yeah, and I feel like as having a sense of community is also really important, and that's something that should be normalized as well. Like joining a community that interests you doesn't matter what it is; it can be anything. But having that sort of sense of community is really important um, in getting and possibly helping yourself be a better person and bettering your own mental health. Um, and how do you or have you yourself like joined any communities and have you seen any changes within yourself?
I would say that I used to play basketball before the pandemic. Um, I would say that that community has genuinely helped me in order to express myself better, because there's a that's a different friend group from what I was actually operating in. So you have this different mindset in how you're supposed to interact with different people. And in that regard, I would say that it has definitely improved my mindset and how and my experiences. So that's that's been a great improvement for me.
Okay, so as we're getting to the end of it, if you for any resources, there will be a saved story on our Instagram, and we would both really appreciate if everyone can press a link in the bio, which will lead you to a survey. And once you're done with the survey, you'll be able to receive an Amazon gift card. And I think that's all.
Yeah. Unless anybody has any questions whatsoever, you can just comment in the chat.
Okay, and if not, this story is also going to be saved in the grid, so in case you want to look back to anything.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marissa. Okay. And again, we would really appreciate it if you do the survey in the bio because that helps us a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No problem. You're welcome.
Okay. And I think that wraps it up.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. It was nice talking to everyone and talking to you as well. And I hope everyone
Yeah.
enjoyed
Likewise.
the afternoon.
Hmm.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.